obviously Horrible Histories has now sort of been and gone for you, and Yonderland is now incredibly successful. Had 2 series. Hopefully we're coming back again. Who knows? Do we know?
We hope so.
We can't.
Nothing we could say.
Okay, that probably means yes. Let us hope it means yes. And so Bill, this obviously I know actually. You shot Bill at the start of last year. So at that point, I don't know. Had you made Yonderland then? I'm trying to remember what the sort of chronology is.
One, hadn't we? Yeah.
So and it was written by Ben and Larry. And how do you work as a sort of writing duo in terms of? Do you go off separately and do different things? Are you together in the same room?
No, we
fight.
We
and then
fight.
we hug.
We wrestle, and then we have sort of mind wrestles and then mind hugs. No, we spend a lot of time working on the story, and that is key. You have to work. You have to figure out your story, and that takes longer than you think. I was speaking to another writer about 2 weeks ago, and he said, it takes about a year to get your story right, and he's absolutely right. I think we took, we sort of bashed out a first draft really quickly, but then came back, and it takes a long time.
Spending all that time looking at the story and really sort of focusing on the plot and everything else does mean that then when you actually get to doing the script, that bit was really good fun.
Yeah.
And our first draft we did in like 3 weeks in an office in Croydon, funnily enough. It was exactly equidistant between Ben's house and mine, so it was practically the best place to write it.
Yeah.
But the first day we were writing it, I got a call from Ben on the train home going, "What have you done?
Turn on the telly.
Turn on the telly.
Turn on the telly right now."
Croydon riot.
Croydon burns to ground.
Yeah.
I thought I'd left the toaster on. I hadn't. It was much more serious than that.
So you're doing it. You rented space. You're there. You're in an office, properly working away.
Yeah.
So you're obviously taking it very seriously from the start, and you've got probably that. And you've got a lot of. Quite a lot of different versions of the script. Kind of from you're saying like version 1.
Yeah, I think first drafts are always they are big, sort of messy creation because you're just getting all your ideas out there. I think our first draft was about 160 pages, which is far too long for a feature film.
It would have made 2 lovely films.
Two films.
It would have made 2 very long, boring films.
Yeah. And then we had some brilliant feedback from BBC, who very kindly said, it's a little bit long, and then they helped us sort the story out.
Well, I think first draft we had like 8 writers' characters in it.
Yeah.
And they basically went, there's a lot of writers in this. And I don't know if you can think of the least cinematic action that an actor can do, it's probably writing. So we cut all of that out.
Yeah. So when you were doing it, you were thinking of one central character for all 6 of you, and then the other ones kind of then came separately. Did you know who was going to do what at the start?
All of that evolved over the next the next draft really, because it was incredibly hard to make sure that we all had a lead character, but then could play incidental characters as well.
There were a few.
I actually can't remember how we did it.
Early on, there were a few of the first 2 lines we wrote of Croydon without even sort of speaking to each other. We went, well, presumably that's Simon. Yeah. And
I thought it was Sausage Guy first.
And
then Croydon.
Whenever I think of sausages, I always think of you.
My face just peering up from a sausage.
Yeah.
Sausage Guy needs his own film.
The further adventures of me. Yeah.
Sausage Guy.
Was there much kind of moving around the characters, or was it pretty much as you thought it would be when you started?
They moved around quite a bit. Some. There were some. Well, I think we never knew which of the goons, the assassins. We were never certain initially on who was going to play those. And for a while, it might have been. The early drafts were in my head. I was sort of thinking that Jim might be Lope and I might be Gabrielle. And it's weird now we've sort of seen it 1,000 times. I know that seems like a ridiculous idea, but at the time when they were just in our heads.
Obviously, any opportunity to wear a frock, you always go to Jim Howick.
Prom Queen, right here.
Presumably when Anne Hathaway came out, you had to fight for that.
Absolutely. It was hot on my tail. Yeah, totally.
So what point did you guys, the 3 of you, actually kind of see the scripts? Did you see it when it was all finished, or at what point did you come in and do you get to comment on the characters, and how does it work in that sense?
We came in, I think, I'm not sure what draft it was, but we were invited to a read through. So we kind of knew that Ben and Larry were working on a script, and we came together in a pub in Deptford, funnily enough.
Where I live.
That could have ended a lot worse.
It could have.
Yeah.
And it just felt amazing. We read the script and we were laughing, and all the characters seemed to suit us. It seemed like natural casting for all of us. And
Almost like we wrote it with you in mind.
well, perhaps. It just felt great, and we had a really nice afternoon. And that was about 3 years ago, I think.
I mean, is there room for you to kind of input and improvise, or is the script pretty solid in that respect?
There was a little less in this because the guys, every time we did a draft, I think we did 3 table reads in all, and each time we did a draft, we then took notes from them. So kind of their input as actors was also put into the script. So there was probably maybe a little less improvisation than we've done in previous things, but still, particularly watching it that time, I was really aware of the moments where, that's them messing around, that's them messing around. You know, there's still quite a lot of improv.
Yeah, mostly the story, again, because the story is so important, it's sort of, I suddenly thought of a different point that was better than the point I was going to make.
Let's say that.
Simon's doing a TED talk next week, just so as you know.
No, it was about. I suddenly thought, I should have made that point about the. No, it was about the characters for us. What I was thinking is that Shakespeare, because I was remembering that first reading, and actually for us, for me anyway, Croydon and Juan were pretty much there and like nailed on. But they're incidental characters that are quite much easier to make funny. And I think Matt had the most to say about Shakespeare because it's so hard to get a leading role right because it's very tempting to make him the sort of straight man and have all your other characters spin off him. But watching that again, actually, it's great how funny Shakespeare is, and Marlowe actually, because they're they're sort of with Anne, they're sort of the heart of it, and they all. It's just really nice that they're all really funny too. Thank you. I'm going to go now.
Yeah. Was it always a given that it would be a period piece? I mean, did you know right from the start it was going to be Shakespeare? How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, it was Rich Bracewell, our director, who when we started talking about a film, it was actually in the first conversation I had with him. He said, "What about Shakespeare? Because it's a great place to start." And he was absolutely right, because I was a little bit wary because of Shakespeare in Love and how what an incredible script and film that is, and you're tackling, the bard, so you've got to, approach it with caution.
And we said early on we wanted to make a film that was half as good as Shakespeare in Love, and I think it is half as good.
It's about as half as good.
But also, I mean, period pieces are always notoriously expensive.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of location work.
We brought all our own costumes.
There was a couple of people really early on, sort of in the film finance world, who went to and pitching the idea, trying to tell them about the film. In the first sentences, right? Well, it's set in 1593, and they go, right, that's £10 million. Carry on. Yeah. And then we sort of tell the story of the film, and then obviously each time we said about a gag or a character or a costume, they were kind of adding money in their head, and then we kind of go, but we'd like to try and do it for sort of under 4, and. Credit to the BBC and Rich, our director, basically BBC Films, who kind of put their heads together and go, I think there is a way of achieving that. But they were, particularly.
It's hard. There's no question. It is hard because you have to recreate Elizabethan England, and so a lot of London that you see in the film is shot in the grounds of a Bolton castle, a ruined castle.
And Martha, they talk about this, the glamour of shooting films, but this was up in Yorkshire, night shoots on the Dales.
It was freezing, yeah. I mean, I had loads of layers on. Matt didn't have that many clothes on, and he was freezing. But with all of the wool and everything, the corset, everything, all the layers I had, I was absolutely freezing every day. It was pretty grim up there. I mean, it's lovely up north.
It's grim up
I'm
north.
from Birmingham. I'm almost there. So
there's a camera and gaff.
I'm in Birmingham. I'm almost there.
No, it's a lovely place, but it was very cold in January. So.
I mean, the attention to detail in the film is amazing, isn't it? I mean, sort of some was in Peckham, some was in Yorkshire, but it really, I mean, was that very important kind of going in? It wasn't just some sort of comedy film where you put on a few outfits. You're actually going for that sort of authenticity.
Well, we'd always sort of tried to, in everything we've done, we tried to do something, there's a backbone there, which the comedy sort of messing around in front of. With Horrible Histories, that was easy because it was the facts. And in Yonderland, we tried to create something which felt like a genuine fantasy world, if that's the thing. So not a throwaway, people are being silly, but the back you sort of buy the world. And we said really early on with this that we wanted you, however ridiculous the thing that we're doing is, you want to believe that the world it's happening in is Elizabethan. And Simon Scullion, who was the production designer, just found a number of ingenious ways of delivering that relatively cheaply, like, you know, building London inside a castle. Because if you're inside a castle walls, then no matter where you put the camera, you don't shoot off because there's a giant wall around you. And, you know, a bombed-out abbey in London, which was our basement, and things like that. So they just kept finding ingenious solutions to it. I
mean, you mentioned about the director, Richard Bracewell. A lot of directors don't have their writer on set every day. And in a sense, you know, they've got not just the writers on set, but also you are, you know, an ensemble in your own right who are used to working with each other. Yeah. I mean, from a director's point of view, do you know how he felt about that?
He hated us. No, he didn't. He was very, he's a really nice, very patient man, thankfully. So he was sort of pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're so busy that, you know, you've just got to get on with it. So, you know...
But was it not really tempting to try and interfere all the time? I mean, did you have to kind of have those boundaries?
Yeah, but he had 3 very burly security guards who kept us at no, I mean, you know, it is, I think, as with everything, every sort of artistic process, it's just keeping that dialogue going. So you are just discussing, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be so cheeky to discuss shots with Rich, you know, I'm not going to do that. But
is that not cool?
It's not cool. Did you do that? But yeah, it's you know, it is. You've got to keep talking, and he wanted that. He encouraged that, so it was fine. He knew what he was getting into. I mean, you know, he didn't go into it blindly, but yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to open it up because I know that there are going to be people who will want to ask you questions. But just as a sort of loosener before we go to the audience, I want you all just to individually tell me which character you most enjoyed playing out of the multitudes that you played on the screen today, starting with Ben.
Well, it has to be King Philip II of Spain. I don't know, the first day I walked on set, I had that lovely costume that was made for me, so it was really comfortable, and I just thought, yeah. You could be a king.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah, it was great.
Simon, what
I miss him.
Sausage guy again. I just put a lot of work into it and put a lot of research into it, and just think that's my finest work I've ever done. No, probably.
I'd agree.
Croydon. I'd say Croydon. Well, both. They were Juan as well. It was good fun to do stupid Spanish voices with Ben.
You do get the villains though, don't you? I mean, when it comes to a villain, you've pretty much cornered the market.
Yeah, I think it's my sort of beady eyes and just that I'm a horrible person. Yeah. That's 2 of the reasons. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun playing a villain because you can, I don't know, their villains are quite sort of playful generally, and so they were both good fun.
In comedies they are.
In comedies they are. In real life, let's not get into that.
No, sorry.
Jim.
Well, my favourite character was Christopher Marlowe. I think just knowing the story he had ahead, the light and shade. But I really enjoyed playing the man on the toilet. Because, and some of you might not remember Blankety Blank, the game show. But one afternoon, I got the sound guy to find the theme tune for Blankety Blank, and he played it on his speakers in one of the takes, because I knew that we had to get it on camera for it to work. So rather cheekily, I got him to play blankety blank and just waved as I revolved. And it's somewhere, I'm sure. I think it's somewhere. It must be. It's in. It's filed.
It does exist.
It does
and
exist.
But all you can hear on the background is my voice going, what? What? Because I'm behind the wall. Why is everyone what?
Yeah.
What I loved about that was that you'd been talking about doing that gag for ages. Going, it's coming up to that day, I'm going to do that gag. and then on that day, it was as it always was everyone was up against it, really up to the wire, really like, come on, we've got to move on, we've got to go, we've got to move on. And Jim was going, I'm going to do the joke anyway. Came round and everyone sort of went, haha, okay, we've got to move on now.
Just try to lighten things up.
All right. What about you, Martha?
Lubricate proceedings.
Well, I loved playing Anne. I loved that the relationship that I had with Matt, but all the way through. But I have to say, the Body Collector was a big favourite of mine. I miss being a peasant so bad.
I'm sure that the Laurence can sort for a future role.
Yeah,
No problem.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Really early on in the scripts, when we were talking with the various studios, I said whatever gets cut, anything can get lost. I'm open to negotiation on absolutely everything apart from the line "in your bum." It stays in, and I get to say it. So Lope, I hugely enjoyed it, even though really early on I made the mistake. I'm going to play him with his jaw jutted out, and on week 7 we were going, oh god, oh. That was a mistake, but yeah, it's so much fun to play.
I liked Matt did a little ad-lib which is in the film, and it's the customs man when the Spanish arrive on the beach, and he did this really bleak ad-lib about his sons dying from the plague, which is so horrible, but I just love it.
I love Jim's I Have Lady Pods. It kills me.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's good.
I was sitting in front of Martha, and I can vouch for the fact that she does like that chat.
Anybody else want to write that?
Sandwiches.
Favourite? Oh,
Sausages?
it's so hard.
Sticky.
Something about... Sticky. What was that?
Sausage man.
Oh, yes. I can't have one of my own. No, I did, well, I mean, the knife. I love the knife thing. Mainly because on that day we seemed to have a bit of time, so we shot that loads of times, and each time we would come up with something different. And I think it made it into the show.
Yeah.
The film show.
We don't do this every night, Simon. You know that.
Yeah. Stick it in the chair, and then
that's
that
it.
all.
It did make it in.
I really enjoyed the scene where Ben gets oranges chucked at him. Because I'm sure other people did for different reasons. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because I love that little shot where it reveals the machine, which is clearly there, that someone has made to throw oranges at the king. It's such a ridiculous idea that I just love that little reveal.
And when we shot that, I kept saying, how are you going to shoot oranges at me exactly? Because we dreamt this up. And they said, well, we'll just get a tennis ball machine. I went, all right. You know how fast those go, though, right? So, it'll be fine. We'll just do it with like soft balls. And then they fired these things at me. They had little sponge sort of tennis balls, and they were going too far. I mean, they hurt. It's like when you go paintballing.
That was a very busy set that day. There were an awful lot of people there who suddenly decided it was very important for the production. It was well observed.
I love the montage scene where they're writing Villa Marlowe. I love that scene. I think it's brilliant. I think you did really well in
very
that.
much.
Yeah, we were very pleased to be able to get dueling banjos from Deliverance re-recorded on loops, which was a wonderful moment.
My personal favourite from acting wise was one where Croydon's in bed, because it's really hard work, like acting. You have to stand a lot. and then they go, oh, let's do another take. So you just lie in bed, and then people bring you cups of tea, and it's like, do you get paid for this? You serious?
You did on that day. You said this is the best job I've ever had.
Yeah,
I did the best. This is the best job I've ever
And
had.
throwing pans at Larry's head made it even
Pans at your
better.
head. I mean, he said, how? He said, how could this get any better? And I said, well, you could be lying back. And he went, oh yeah.
Yeah, I could have improved things.
I always wanted to do something about the Civil War, I think. But I never really played a character from the Civil War in Horrible Histories.
I'd like to see you do Samuel Pepys.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah.
With the cheese and the...
I buried,
Or Nell Gwyn.
buried my Parmesan cheese on my fine wines.
that's series one.
Yeah.
Probably Pepys or something to do with the
Pepys.
Fire of London or the Restoration or something.
I think cavemen, but speaking like this would be cool.
Yeah,
But it's kind of been done, hasn't
it
it?
has.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do Bob Hale because 4 hours in makeup.
I'd quite like to do like Stupid Deaths, but like a serious film. Yeah, like an Ingmar Bergman, like a really slow, serious film, and then maybe with one joke at the end.
Yeah. You could call it Judgment Day, and yeah, it'd be really dark.
Are you offering to write it for me?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, great.
I don't know. It's just when you have a villain who's as silly as Philip, you need to surround him with at least 3 Stooges who are quite different to him. So he was quite.
I think as
It was
well that
quite
they,
panto.
what we liked about that, all of the others, even though the other two, Juan and Lope are idiots, that they wanted to be doing the job. And I like the idea of doing something rather than, in Shakespearean time, you would have men playing women because women weren't allowed in the theatre. We like the idea of having a man who was playing women because that's what he wanted to do, and realised that the world that brought him into in terms of the theatre was far preferable to the killing of people. And so it's just kept put sort of more heart into the film.
Yeah. There was quite a lot. Obviously, I mean, you shoot a feature and you had so much material. I don't know. That's hard.
We had. The very, very first cut of the film was about 2.5 hours, and that one's an hour less. So there was a lot of stuff. I mean, most of it, on the whole, you look at it and you go, "That's not right. That's not right." There were a few moments. There was one that we tried really early on when you first meet Croydon in the carriage. There was a scene where he gets out and Ian helps him out of the carriage, and he ends up getting his head trodden into a horse manure. In the street, and we tried it was a really nice character moment, and it sort of completely set up Croydon and Ian's relationship slightly earlier in the film, and we tried cutting that about 5 different ways together, and it just never quite worked. I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of things where you go, on paper that's brilliant, and then you shoot it and you see it and you go, maybe not.
But the whole script was quite really quite tight by the time we got to shoot it, so there's no scenes missing from the film. But a lot of the scenes are chopped into quite a lot. There's the scene when we, the grubby men, they're called the grubby men in the script, attack or want to rob Anne in the alleyway, and that was quite a long scene of them getting confused and tripping over their lines, which I really loved. But for time, we had to really chop into that. So I'd love one day for everyone to see that as a standalone.
Probably have been Marlowe's Ghost.
Yeah.
We really wanted, early on, it was actually we were trying to work out how the best way of doing it, and it was one of our one of our assistant directing team, who hit upon an idea which a technique I've been in love with for years. I'm a bit of a nerd about special effects, and it's a Victorian stage technique. Pepper's Ghost. So that's not a special effect. The shooting of that ghost is all on set, using a reflection against glass, which places him exactly in the scene with Matt, which meant we could shoot both of them together. We could pan the camera off of them.
Yeah, I was opposite Matt, but mirrored.
Yes.
And performing entirely to... So if you say Matt's in front of me looking this way, I was looking that way. So my reflection is looking at Matt, looking at Bill, and I was actually performing into a black curtain, into darkness. But just
Don't worry, I've heard this 10 times and I still don't understand.
You need
But it looked
diagrams.
great.
Yeah, no,
But it looked great. That's the main
But
thing.
the most,
not-
one of the most rewarding things is that there were a couple of people from effects houses who looked at it and went, "How did you do that?"
It's an in-camera special effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very lucky because I got my dress made for me by our brilliant costume department. So yeah, but I have to say it was quite uncomfortable after a while because it was all corseted. But I mean, it looks lovely. So.
Croydon, for me, again, it was made for me, but I really complained all the time until they made it really, really comfortable. No, it was great. It was good, lovely, and it feels sort of quite, and obviously I look just really stylish and great in it.
Yeah. Well, obviously for me it was Philip again, because when you have a costume made for you, there's nothing better because it's a tailored outfit, and I got them to make it a little bit tight around the waist just to make sure I stayed slim for my Oranges shoot.
Mine was probably Marlowe for the same reasons, but also I really like the colour scheme.
Yeah.
Just a kind of plum.
Yeah.
Maroon.
I liked Ian's outfit when they first showed it to me because it had just been made and it was beautiful. And then I said, in the script, I sort of liked the idea that he hadn't bought anything for 15 years. And so could it be unfashionable, too tight and covered in mud? So then they took this outfit, they took it in to the point that I could barely get into it and they kicked it around the car park. And so I think my favourite would have to be Walsingham because I just said, he thinks he's Batman, and they went, "We've got it." And they made a completely leather Tudor outfit.
My favourite song was Boudica, I think. I like that.
Not Rah Rah Cleopatra.
Not Rah Rah Cleopatra, Jim.
Mine was probably the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings.
That's met with approval.
No, I enjoyed the rock one and the Simon and Garfunkel one.
Yeah.
Jim, you're only allowed one.
I know.
Sorry, all right, the rock one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotta be strict.
yeah, it was cool. I had a drum kit, so that was cool.
Simon, any thoughts?
Mine was song. Yeah, it was Marcus Licinius Crassus. No rich man could ever surpass us. That fulfilled my ambition to be a rap artist, which I now am.
Ben?
I think it would have to be the Vikings because we got 4 goes at it. And it was great fun, really great fun, and great fun to do at the Albert Hall.
I really enjoyed doing the other Viking song because they said, just mess around in the background and be a hippie, and I had a lovely morning. I really enjoyed myself.
That's great.